Have you ever seen this happen? A project, a new policy, a community initiative. It's got this amazing plan on paper, but then it just completely goes off the rails. Well, today, we're going to dive into the hidden forces that really separate the successes from the failures.
I mean, it's a super frustrating question, isn't it? You've got the goal, you've got the strategy, everything seems perfectly mapped out. So, what gives? What is that missing piece of the puzzle? What's the secret ingredient that actually turns a great idea into something real?
Okay, so it all starts with the blueprint, a really solid project plan. Think about it. Every big achievement, whether it's building a skyscraper or launching a new program, it all starts with that. It's the foundation, right? It's what gives everyone a clear direction. So, let's talk about that blueprint. What does a really solid one actually look like? Because it's not just a wish list, right? No, the research is pretty clear. It's got to have a few absolutely critical parts just to even have a fighting chance.
And what's wild is how fundamental these steps are. First, you got to have a super detailed handle on the problem you're trying to solve. Then, you analyze that problem and all the possible solutions. And finally, you lay out your aims and objectives in crystal clear terms. I know it sounds almost too simple, but getting this foundation right, that's everything.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. A plan is just a map, and having a great map is awesome, but it doesn't tell you if you're actually on the right road, does it? How do you know if you took a wrong turn 2 miles back, or if road conditions have completely changed? The map itself, it just can't tell you that.
And that brings us to the PME connection. This is the real secret sauce: planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Think of it like this. This is the system that turns your static paper map into a live GPS. The kind that's constantly updating you on your progress.
So here is the absolute key point. Monitoring and evaluation are not afterthoughts. They're not something you just slap on at the end to see how things went. For a project to really work, the way you're going to track your progress and measure your results, that has to be baked in right from day one, woven into the very fabric of the initial plan. Okay, so if this integrated approach is so obviously vital, why doesn't everyone just do it? Well, it's because trying to actually implement this kind of system in the real world means you're basically fighting a battle on two very different fronts. On one side, you've got the political challenges. We're talking about the messy human stuff: power, personal agendas, control. And then, on the other side, you have the technical challenges. This is all the nuts and bolts. Do you have the right skills, the right capacity, and the right data to actually pull it off? All right, let's dive into that first battleground, the political one. Because what you have to understand is that bringing in a system based on data and results, that is not a neutral act. At its core, it is fundamentally about power. And this really gets to the heart of why people push back so hard. Think about it. The second you start measuring what actually works, you create transparency. You challenge who gets money and why. And that threatens the established power dynamics. It messes with personal agendas, and it shines a light on interest groups who'd much rather things stay, murky. All of a sudden, there's accountability. Which is why this quote is so on the money. Cusack and Rist say, "It takes strong and consistent political leadership, usually in the form of a political champion, to institute such a system." And that just nails it, right? To overcome all that resistance, you need someone at the top, a champion, who has the political will and influence to push it through. Without that top-level support, even the best designed systems can be dead on arrival. But okay, let's say you win the political fight. You've got your champion, you're ready to go. Well, the battle's not over. Now you've got to face the technical hurdles. You need the actual, on-the-ground capacity to make this whole thing work.
And this is way more than just a simple checklist. You need people who can design meaningful ways to measure progress, not just vanity metrics. You need systems to actually collect and analyze the data. And here's the kicker. You need managers who know what to do with that information once they have it. It's a whole ecosystem of trained staff and the right tech.
And this brings up a classic trap, one that so many organizations fall into. We have this idea that more data is always better. But the source material makes such a good point here. Just collecting and dumping huge mountains of raw data on a manager's desk, that's not helpful. In fact, it's pretty useless. Data without insight is just noise. So the big question is, how much data is enough? Well, here's the thing. Decision makers almost never have perfect, complete information. They just don't. But the key is you don't have to wait for perfect. Even partial, imperfect data, as long as you analyze it, gives you feedback. And that feedback leads to way better decisions than just flying blind or going with your gut.
Okay, so after hearing about all these political battles and technical hurdles, you might be thinking, man, is this really worth all the trouble? And the answer is absolutely, 100% yes. Because the payoff here isn't just about making one project succeed, it's about building a stronger foundation for everything.
And this right here is the ultimate argument. This one sentence from the source really connects all the dots. A government's ability to actually deliver results, to learn from its mistakes, and to adapt. That's not just some boring administrative detail. It is the absolute bedrock of a healthy economy and a functional society. And when governments get good at this, the results are transformative. We're talking about stronger, more effective governance. And that contributes directly to tangible outcomes that matter to everyone, reducing poverty and creating higher economic growth. It's a direct line.
So when you boil it all down, that's what this is really about. Building a good plan and then integrating monitoring and evaluation isn't about bureaucracy or ticking boxes. It's about creating a system that learns. It's about being honest about what isn't working so you can fix it, and understanding what is succeeding so you can do more of it.
And that leaves us with one last question, and this one's for you to think about. In your world, whether that's your work, your community, or your government, what do you see as the biggest barrier to getting better results? Is it the political will, or is it the technical capacity? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining me.